Hello, this is Graham Dene. Today on Boom Radio, we have a very special 1 hour show because I am in the company of Sir Cliff Richard.
Oh, thank you. Listen, you don't really have to call me sir, just bow.
It's the only time I intended to do it. Cliff, welcome to Boom.
Thank
I'm
you.
not bowing.
No, thank you. It's nice to be with you on Boom, I tell you.
We've got an hour ahead of us.
Oh, good.
You've got a new album out. Do you know, I didn't have to think long and hard about the title of this 1 hour special because you've done it for me with the title of the album, Christmas with Cliff. Sorted. That's it.
Yeah.
Boom Radio, it's our festive special with Cliff Richard. You are synonymous with Christmas, and what surprises me is I think that this is only your second festive album.
Yes, I believe it was 19 or 20 years ago that I did the first one, which I think was called Together at Christmas. That was my first attempt at a Christmas record. And some people say, why didn't you do more? I said, well, the thing is, you know that Christmas comes every year. The danger is that you start doing one every other year or every year, and it could come across as boring, really. So when the record company, when Warner Music said to me, we think we'd like to have a Christmas album from you, they then sent me a list. Graham, I didn't know that there were this many old Christmas songs. There must have been 100 songs, and there's probably 100 more somewhere. So I just chose 10 of them, and then 3 brand new ones. And I was very happy. I sent the songs to the brand new ones to the record company, and they loved them. So that got on there. And for me, it was just a dream to do it. And somebody said, but how do you get yourself into the mood? I said, well, you can ask me that about any album I've ever made. In the end, the song that you like and chose to record, it kind of makes you sing it the way it should be. And so I said to my guys, look, I want ups and downs. I want dynamics. I want fast songs, slow songs. And so they gave it to me. I got what I wanted. And there's not exactly jingle bells there, but there's certainly reindeer hooves on things. And lots of the choruses are ding dong, bong, bong. And I'm so happy with it. In the end, well, you know this as well as I do, that in the end you can spend hours and all the love and all the whatever strength you have to make an album, and in the end, the only people that prove it any good are the ones that buy it.
Well, they've had to wait an awful long time, 19 years since the last one.
That may be in my favour.
What took you so long?
Yeah, maybe in my favour. But it was fun to do anyway.
Well, why don't we start off with one of the new songs, and it's the single, Heart of Christmas. Tell us about it.
Well, it came through to me, I think about a year ago. I listened to it and I thought, oh, you know, sometimes you can get that feeling, think this could be a hit. I don't think anybody would have the nerve to say, I think this is going to be number one, because you never know. But in the early days when we would talk with the Shadows, we'd say, this sounds like a hit. That means it's going to be hopefully in the top 20. But those were the days when we actually sold records. Even if you were 15, you could sell 250,000 records. So when I heard this one, I thought, it's a great storyline about Christmas. It's very Christmassy. And it has this fantastic chorus. The whole chorus area just makes you sort of sway and sing. So it was, for me, a very obvious song to have on the album.
Well, let's hear it. Heart of Christmas. Right, so there's the single from your new album, Christmas with Cliff, Heart of Christmas. You recorded this in Miami, very famous studios there, Criteria Studios. And boy, I was looking at some of the people who've recorded there, Cliff. Everybody from Petula Clark to Adele.
I know.
And you.
And the Bee Gees. I got it when I think Barry told me that there was Criteria, that they did Staying Alive and stuff like that. And so I found out where it was. The most important thing is not only did all these popular people work there, they had good engineers.
I don't think it was just about the producer there or the acoustics. I think it's about the weather and the fact you probably played a lot of tennis.
Well, I didn't play tennis there, no, but the weather it's a bit like Barbados. It does get cooler in the winter there, but not cold, freezing cold. I don't think they have snow. But compared to the sort of upper 80s and 90s that it is like now, in the winter it can get chilly. But it's a fantastic, and Christmas is usually, funnily enough, sunny. So it's a place that I quite enjoy going. I like being in Barbados. I live in Barbados. I reside there. I spend more time there than anywhere else. I've got a car, I pay tax there, and it's fun to be there. So I've chosen to live in good weather. I found it very cold when I got here back in Britain a couple of weeks back. And even though it wasn't that cold, it felt cold to me. I wore socks in bed, kept underwear and vests on and things like that. And so...
Well, now you know how the other half live.
I do.
We're acclimatized to it now.
Yeah, I know.
Right, what I want you to do is be a DJ. I know you've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to be a singer, but now you can be the DJ. Take us through the album and just tell us the songs you'd like me to play.
There's 2 or 3 tracks. Mary, Did You Know is one of the most emotional records I've made.
And it sums up Christmas.
It really sums up Christmas, and it was written by someone who believed in it, and it took him 3 years. He wrote it in the early 80s. He said that it took a lifetime, about 3 years, because he wanted to get everything right, theologically right as well. So that when I'm singing, Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day walk on water? It was so emotional, so I enjoyed singing that.
All right, why don't we play Mary Did You Know first?
Okay.
And listening to it the other day, there's some lovely harmonies on that as well.
Oh, they are.
Let's listen to it.
Okay.
So, from Cliff's new album, Christmas with Cliff, on our Boom special today, one of 3 new songs, Mary Did You Know? Lovely harmonies on that. I'm not sure what time of the year you recorded the album, but is it difficult if it's in the middle of the summer, as so many classic Christmas records were? Is it difficult to get into that festive feel?
Not really. I mean, as I say, whenever I've recorded, I've always felt that the songs tell you what to do. And if someone else sings it, that same song will tell him or her to do it in a different way. So it wasn't difficult at all to get Christmassy there. Yeah, the first album, we actually had blue and white lights flashing away and a Christmas tree in the corner. But in the end, when I'm looking back, I'm thinking I didn't really need them.
And they didn't need to turn the temperature down in the studio to get...
Thank God they didn't.
One that really caught my eye, one of the classic songs, is, well, must have been a nod to your hero, Elvis Presley, and your new version of Blue Christmas.
I know. I said to them originally, I said, I must do Blue Christmas. They absolutely agreed. You know, Elvis it's the classic. It's the version. And I said, but songs don't belong to just one person. Everybody can have a go at it. So what I did was I put some new backing vocals on the verses. So, you know, I'll have a blue, blue, blue Christmas, Christmas without you. So I had all those interjections in harmonies. And again, it is a tribute to Elvis. Elvis is the reason why I'm talking to you. I don't think there'd be a Cliff Richard, and I don't think there'd have been the Beatles. The Beatles were the same age as the Shadows and myself, and they listened to Elvis, Little Richard, Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, Ray Charles. So we were influenced by the same people. So I always pay positive tribute to Elvis. No Elvis, there would have been no Cliff Richard. So for me, it was a chance to play a tribute to him and hopefully not destroy the song for his fans.
Let's hear it. It's Boom Radio. It's our festive special with Cliff Richard. And, well, your new version there of Elvis's, well, the song we attach with Elvis, as you mentioned, Blue Christmas. I don't think you ever met him, did you, or had any contact?
No, I went to his house once with one of my management group. His father let us in. It was quite fantastic to see the place.
You just turned up?
Stood at the gate. And then they saw us. And then, I don't know why, I don't know how he knew, though. I don't think he knew my name, but I think maybe David Bryce, who I was with, maybe said, oh, this is Cliff Richard from England. Anyway, he came, let us in. The thing I couldn't do, the front door had a carpet, and Elvis's face was on it. And they all walked over it, so I walked round the edge. I thought, I can't walk on Elvis's face.
Total respect.
Yeah. But now it's different. When that time, way, way, way back in probably the 60s, his house seemed like massive. I seem to remember us looking up at columns. When I went back there later, in the 90s, it looked small. That's really weird. And of course, what they've done is they've built onto the back and turned it into an Elvis museum. There are his clothes that he wore, guitars that he played. He, his mother, his father, and his brother are buried in the backyard. It's fantastic. And I found it very emotional standing in that backyard knowing that Elvis was buried there.
It's very much like going back to your old school. Everything looks smaller than you remember.
Yeah, I don't know why it was, because we're so into big homes now. I've been to so many big homes that are really huge, like Buckingham Palace some people live in, that may be the contrast of that, going back and suddenly thinking, oh, it's smaller than I remembered. But it was terrific to go there, absolutely wonderful. And I couldn't get into the Sun Studios. They were closed that weekend, believe it or not, but usually they do allow fans to come in. So I had a picture taken with Lamont Dozier, of Dozier, Holland and Dozier.
Who was on your Soulicious tour, I remember.
He produced that one, and he's passed away now, unfortunately. But he and I sat on the bench in front of Sun Studios. So I can always say I've been there.
Oh, wow. We need a copy of that photograph.
I know, it'll be somewhere.
I'll tell you a couple of songs, Cliff, that stood out to me. The classic Christmas songs was Sleigh Ride and Go Tell It on the Mountain. And I'll tell you why. Because it took us back to the time when we were on the skiing trip together.
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember that night that we took a sleigh ride, a horse-drawn sleigh, over the mountains to a restaurant? And do you remember what we sang on the way in this cold, cold night?
Go Tell It on the Mountain?
No.
What was
we were
it?
going on a skiing holiday.
Oh, we're all going on a skiing holiday. Yeah.
It was a great trip.
They were great trips, actually, and they're so different to having a summer holiday. But funny enough, when you're skiing, you don't feel cold. Mind you, you're mittened up, you're buttoned up. People will be sitting out because it was sunny, and they've got their shirts off, and they're sitting there, snow 2 feet away from them, and they're sunbathing.
I've seen you do the same thing in a way. I've got the photographs to prove it. Oh, yes. Yeah. And I do have one thing to thank you for.
Oh, what for?
Because on one of our skiing trips, I decided to ski backwards, and I popped a muscle in my calf. And you were going up the slope at the time, in the ski lift, obviously, and you saw me there, and you turned round and you came and took me to another ski lift that was going down, and that's how I got down the mountain. I was prostrate in the snow, and you were my knight in shining armour, and so I just want to say thank you for doing that.
Oh, I think it was a pleasure, but I think it was a mistake.
Shall we go on that sleigh ride?
Yes, why
For the
not?
second time in our lives.
Okay.
Sleigh Ride, Cliff's version on our 1 hour special here at Boom Radio. Now, how are you spending Christmas?
Well, this year, I wasn't sure where I was going to be, but having come back here, I've been invited to go back to Fort Lauderdale in Florida. I know a bunch of people there, and they're all going to get together and asked if I could come and join them, so I will. It's funny, America's given me a whole new lifestyle. I don't get recognized there. I go to the supermarket. Yes, sometimes. I went to this supermarket called Publix. I was just in shorts and T-shirt, and as I walked in, it was during the pandemic, and the guy gave me this quantity things on my hands, and he gave me a look, and I said, I haven't been here before. Where's the vegetables? He said, well, just far right. Go to the far right, sir, right over there. So I go, and I come back, and he stops me. He said, look, do you know me? I said, no. He said, well, I think I know you. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, tell me your name. So I said, Cliff Richard. He said, Keith Richards, I knew it. And I said, no, I'm Cliff Richard. I'm much better than him.
And very different.
And the funny thing is, I said, you'll have to Google me. That's right. I came back. I wasn't going out. I went and did a bit more shopping. When I came back, he'd Googled me. And he said, I knew you were famous. He said, I can smell celebrity from 50 paces.
Just the wrong one.
So I've got a feeling I may have been wearing some fancy clothes, or maybe nice shorts and a nice shirt, and may have looked like somebody who could afford it. And maybe that's why I nudged him to say, "Are you anybody?" It's so funny. He could smell celebrity.
You're always dressed like a celebrity, Cliff. You make us, the rest of us, hoi polloi, look very tatty at times. In fact, it reminds me, we did one of our skiing trips in America, and I remember you saying, "Your ski outfit is so old and tatty, let's go and buy you a new one." And you came shopping.
Yes,
and I've still got it.
Well, even when you're on the slopes, it changed after a few years, because I was certainly in silver and blue and fabulous colours. Everybody was flashing down. Now, the last time I went, it was all sort of black or grey. They've taken the colour out of it all. So, but I don't know about you, but I haven't skied since the last time we skied in Lech, that time.
Another song you wanted to talk about is Joy to the World.
Yeah.
How did you get to pick that one?
Well, the thing is, it was on that list that they had sent me, and I can remember singing Joy to the World at the Albert Hall. You know, every year Princess Anne, I think, used to have a charity show, a children's charity anyway, and you'd be there and there'd be actors and everybody, and we'd all get together at the end and sing Joy to the World. And so when it came up, I thought, well, I've never recorded it, and I always liked the melody. But what I love about this was produced by the German guy, Chris Walden, and he can work with strings and things. And when I heard it for the first time mixed, I'm sitting there with my headset on, and it made me feel like I was in a theatre, because there's this little tinkly start, and then suddenly some strings, and then it slowly builds up until it goes, and then this little voice comes out going, Joy to the World, and that's me. So it made me feel like I was in a theatre production. It was such a fabulous introduction. You just hope that people can hear it and feel it the way you hear it and feel it.
We're going to hear it and feel it now.
Okay.
Joy to the World, Cliff Richard from his new album Christmas with Cliff here at Boom Radio. I know you're very careful with your diet. Will that conflict with Christmas?
No, because I'm allowed to eat turkey. I can eat a load of vegetables, and so it doesn't actually harm it. There are 10 things, I'll quickly go through them. I can't have dairy or wheat. No red meat, no crustaceans, no mangoes, papayas or bananas, no potatoes, tomatoes, and eggplant. Aubergine. And when you look at a list of foods that exist, giving up 10 of them is not that difficult. Tomatoes is probably the thing I miss most, because some of the great curries are made with tomato puree. Some of the great pastas have tomato on it. But there are so many different ways of having pasta, and you just have to be careful when I'm choosing the Indian food. But I'm allowed to have a treat now and then. But if I'm going to have a treat, it'll be a steak. About 4 a year. But I look forward to the day. You have to plan your sin. So I know when I go back to Florida, I've already said to people, they say, where do you want to go and eat? I said, we want to go to the Capitol Grill. I'm going to have a steak. I want a steak. And you look forward to it. And you know what? I wake up the next day and I just go back on my regime.
Well, it's doing you a power of good, because you're looking still as young as ever.
Well, I'm doing something right. I also take vitamins. Do you? Do you take vitamins?
I don't actually know.
I take 8 vitamins every day and 10 every other day. I add 2 more. And I keep saying to people, 1 or 2 of them are keeping me alive, and I don't know which ones they are. So I just take them all.
Well, put a list down and I'll try them all, because, it's obviously doing you good. I'm going to break things up now, before we get back to the album, just by asking you, I know everybody asks you this, but if you could pick just one of your tracks from your entire career...
Oh...
what would it be? And it doesn't have to be a hit. What would you love to hear played on the radio?
I can only answer this by saying, first of all, everybody knows I have been the most fortunate singer. I've been given such fantastic songs. 15 of them have been number 1, loads in the top 10, etc. So I'm just going to say that if somebody came down from Mars and we all had to stand in front of them and say, what do you do for a living? I would play him Devil Woman. And there's Devil Woman, written for me by a guy called Terry Britton. Funnily enough, when I had it in my pocket, I didn't feel safe with it because I thought my fans are not going to like this. They like me singing Summer Holiday, Living Doll, and suddenly I'm going, she's just a devil woman. So I had it in my palm, and then when we did this album, Nearly Famous, it was produced by Bruce Welch. He came and played me these new songs, and I said, oh, they're fantastic. He said, you got anything? I said, I have, but I'm not sure about this. And I played it. He said, I'm sure about it. And Bruce, he's one of these people, what we call, have a great ear. He would never say to you, this is going to be number one. But he might say to you, this is like a hit. And so he said, to me, it's a hit. And of course it was a hit. And it was my first top 10 record in America. Because I've never really had big success in America. We Don't Talk Anymore was also in the top 10. And of course, the one that I remember now most is Olivia Newton-John and I singing Suddenly. So Devil Woman came by accident almost, because I didn't think my fans would like it, and it turned out that they did.
They certainly did. I wanted to talk about Olivia, obviously. I mean, one of the lowest points of the year for you. You've been buddies for, well, going back years and years.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be nice just for you to say something about her, and maybe we could play a song that you sang together.
Oh, she's got loads that I like that she did on her own, but I'd love to play Suddenly. That's the one for me as a duet. Sometimes when you're singing with a female artist, the danger is that the keys are not they either work for the girl or they work for the guy. When I sang my part, it felt comfortable. When she sang her part, she said she felt comfortable. And at the very end, I've only had to use the falsetto just at the top of one note. Otherwise, it was all full chest singing, and it was just the most fantastic love song. To me, it's a way you could tribute so many hits. She had Magic and I Honestly Love You and so many big hits, and became such a popular woman. I was not exactly surprised, but quite shocked at how many people loved her. There was no threat. Women loved her. Men loved her. And so it's a great loss for us. And I must admit, when I first got the news, I'd only spoken to her 2 or 3 weeks before. We'd called each other regularly. And of course, when I called her, she'd go, oh, Cliff, g'day, mate, how are you, darling? All that went on. And somebody said, well, how was she? I said, well, she sounded great. And I said, she's had cancer for 30 years. You'd never have known if you spoke to her on the phone. If you looked at her, she was still beautiful. So I just had the feeling that Olivia would be around for another decade or so fighting cancer. 3 weeks later, she was gone. And I was shocked, because I was convinced that she was still going to be there for 10 years. And Tanya, my secretary, rang me and said, oh, the television, all that, want you to make comments. And I said, oh, I don't think I can look at a camera and talk about Olivia just now. So what we did together was I wrote something for my Facebook page, and they used a fabulous picture of Olivia and I hugging each other on stage. And so that's the way I got around it. I can talk about it now, and I can even look at the camera and talk about her. But it's still a dreadful loss for all of us.
Let's hear Suddenly.
Yeah.
It's Boom Radio with Cliff Richard. And there you were with Olivia. Big hit, Suddenly. And thanks to you, I met Olivia and spent a whole week with her. She came on your 60th birthday cruise.
Of course she did,
and,
yeah.
Everything you've said about her, she was just the most delightful person.
Yeah.
Down to earth, joined in with
No side.
No. Whatsoever.
That was my 60th birthday, yeah. I tried to put it off, One of the magazines kept saying, can we photograph your birthday? And I thought, no, I don't want that. And they kept on asking. So I said to my friends, I know how to put them off. I said, okay, you can photograph my birthday. If you book me a cruise, I want 80 people on a boat just for ourselves. And they said yes.
And so did I.
They said yes. Anyway, it turned out to be a fantastic week, and they weren't there for more than a day and a half or so, and they took their pictures, and we all had a great time, didn't we?
We did, and I did say thank you at the time, but I thank you again for that. It was a very, very special week,
It was
especially
a good
now
week.
to remember Olivia.
Funny thing is that the Seabourn people that took us on the cruise, they'd said to me, all right, fine, that's okay. 80, we had 83 people, actually, and they said, now, what about entertainment? I said, forget it. He said, what are you going to do? I said, we're going to do it ourselves. So remember, Gloria was there, and she did sort of an afternoon with Gloria. And
Bobby Davro and a myriad of other people.
Yeah, and everybody did something during the whole week. We all did something. Brian didn't have any drums, so I think he played an old biscuit tin top with a bit of padding on it.
Lovely memories.
Yeah, terrific.
Getting back to the skiing trip in Austria that we had, of course, the year before, you'd been singing songs to Princess Diana and William and Harry, and because we used to get together in the bar after
a Friday
dinner,
night.
didn't we? Well, every night. You had your guitar
We got
there.
together, but we used to sing on a Friday night, and Mike Reed was with us.
Yes.
So we both had our guitars, and we had done it. And when Princess Diana came in with the two boys, and two of their friends, I assume, she came up and said to me, I hear you sing in the bar. I said, well, we do have fun. She said, oh, can I bring the boys? So Mike and I got together, and I guess this is the first time. William and Harry probably won't even remember it. They must have been, 9 and 12 or something like that. And we were singing, Summer Holiday and all that. And then I saw Harry go, oh, and make this big yawn. And we stopped, and I said, well, anything you want to hear? And he said, do you know Great Balls of Fire? And I said, yeah, but how do you know? He said, Mummy plays it all the time. So Mike and I get into it. You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain. Williams sits quietly back and with his fist just rolls it like this, bouncing. Harry gets up and does an impersonation of Michael Jackson. It was unbelievable. When I talked about it afterwards, I thought, William knows he's going to be king and Harry knows he's not. He was just wicked.
Well, let's go through any of the other songs that you'd like me to play before we wrap all this up. In fact, you're going to be doing some shows next year, aren't you? Tell
I
us
am
about
going to
those.
do eight concerts. I'm not doing a major tour or anything like that. We've left it kind of late, but the album has come out this year. I didn't want to tour this year because the fans wouldn't be au fait with it yet. So I thought, let's do it next year. And my first choice was the Albert Hall, but it's too late to book it at this stage. Sometimes we've booked 5 years ahead. So I had no chance of getting that. And by the time we started putting the tour together, it was difficult to get other things as well. So I'm doing 8 shows. There's one I'm going to do, I think, on that show, will be A Child Is Born. The Johnny Mathis hit was there. And all I did was change the spoken lyrics. I just wanted to make that my own.
Well, let's have a listen to that. I think we've just about covered everything.
Oh, good.
I'll tell you one thing I was going to say. Just getting back to the skiing holidays when we used to sing in the bar afterwards.
Yeah.
I do remember the following year, after the Royal Sing Song, that we did a very, very good version of All I Have to Do Is Dream, the Everly Brothers.
Oh, that's a classic. I don't know whether people get goosebumps now when they buy records. But when I first heard Everly's singing Dream, Dream, I was covered in goosebumps. And quite often you get that. Life changes and music certainly does. And what I've discovered is that if you want to remain in it, you just have to roll with it and do your best. And that's it. Every now and then things will happen for you, and sometimes they don't.
Well, I think my duet with you probably you'll never want to repeat. But it was fun while it lasted. Cliff, it's been a joy talking to you. So I wish you a very Merry Christmas on behalf of Boom Radio. And perhaps even more importantly, a very happy and healthy 2023. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you to you and everybody on Boom. Thank you so much. I love you greatly.